it's going. Okay.
Great.
Okay, good. There we go. Okay, this is Leon. He's from England, and he's come here. We're talking about teaching Vedanta, and the topic is the second half of
The big picture.
of the big. It's a big picture. The whole outline, because Vedanta is a complete teaching. You need to, in every teaching, you need to cover the whole teaching from A to Z in every session or seminar, from A to Z. You can't leave anything out because it's been worked out in such a way that it covers every aspect of the spiritual journey, the spiritual path from A to Z. So to teach it, you really have to have the big picture in mind all the time, and always be referring back to that. That's your base camp, you can say.
So when you have your graph there, it's just showing so people can clearly see.
Yeah, well, yeah, or I think of it like I'm a Photoshop guy. Yeah. And like when I got an image, that's the first image that I work on. But I don't actually work on that image. I make a copy of it. So that's the background image. So whatever changes I make, I always refer back to the original.
Right.
And then at every stage where I make a change, I can look back and see where I've moved from that and go back to the original if I need to get ideas. So you should have this idea when you teach that, you know, what the self is, what sati is, what mithya is, and always have that in mind, and then understand where every sidetrack. In other words, when you journey out into a particular teaching, how to get back to the original, back to base camp. So you're constantly going out. And then coming back and relating all of the auxiliary teachings to the central teaching, to the fundamental teaching. Yeah. And then, of course, because the idea is that they need to keep the idea of the self in mind all the time.
Yes.
When they're listening and when they're practicing. So I am the self is everything that is, the self is non-dual consciousness, the world is not real. This is the base camp. Brahma Satya. Brahma Sattvic Jagat Mithya. So everything's meant to prove that equation.
Yes.
It's not an equation, but it proves that truth, or that nugget of truth.
And we were talking about the value of values just before we broke up.
Well, yeah, because so the first half is you know, what is the self? And what the qualifications are, and how to approach the self. In other words, the self is attained through knowledge. That was lesson number 2. The self is not an experience. The world is a zero-sum game. So you can't win in the world, you can't lose in the world. You're just treading water when you have that samsaric mentality.
Yes.
When you come to the spiritual, when you become spiritual, start asking, who am I? Interested in these spiritual things, you're not really aware that the self isn't an object. In fact, it's thought of as an object to you. So then you're open, your mind is open now to hear about all these things you can do to get the self.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And you don't realize that you can't get the self.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the fundamental premise is incorrect. The fundamental premise is you are the self already. Everything is non-dual consciousness, and your existence and your consciousness is it.
You are the subject.
You're the subject, the eternal subject, the unmodified eternal subject. Yeah. So you have to dispel the enlightenment myths in the second story, and then point out that there's an ignorance problem. And then lesson 3 is you need knowledge to get rid of ignorance.
Yeah.
but you can't gain knowledge unless you're qualified. And once you're qualified, there are three other factors, which is the guru. The guru needs to be established in the self as the self.
Yeah.
We call that a Brahmanishta.
Yeah.
And you need a independent means of knowledge that's independent of the teacher itself.
Yeah.
The teacher just needs to operate a scientific proven means of knowledge, which is Vedanta. We call it Vedanta Vimana. And then if you're thinking of moksha as a goal, which you will be, and obviously it's not a goal, but because you think it's a goal, we have to present the teaching in light of that goal. Then we tell you, well, even if you're qualified and you've got the proper means of knowledge and you got the right teacher, a teacher who will the means of knowledge and so forth, and you still haven't been set free by the knowledge, then it's because you have to wait until Ishvara gets your mind in the right state for you to assimilate the knowledge. So there's four basic factors involved in gaining moksha, or preparing your mind for moksha. That's the qualifications. And then once you're prepared, then we teach the self.
Yeah, and so the preparation is really thought and emotion control. Controlling thoughts, controlling emotions, our moods, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but these are that more or less comes actually yes, that is true. But that more or less, there's so many different ways to slice and dice this thing. That generally comes after the karma yoga.
Okay.
That we call upasana yoga.
Yeah.
Refining, focusing, and managing the mind.
Yes.
So let's see. You just have these general qualifications. You're in the ballpark and you understand what's there.
Yeah.
And then you're able to listen to hear the teaching.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it, or if you if let's say you hear the teaching on the self. So the fourth lesson is, what is the self?
Yeah.
We talked about that this morning.
Yeah.
If you don't get I am the self, and what that means in terms of your life right here, you can get it intellectually, like everybody gets it when they hear these modern teachings. Yes. But that's a far cry from living it.
Yeah, it's not life-changing.
It's not life-changing, that's right. It doesn't. It gets you high for a little while. It makes you feel some kind of relief.
Yeah.
You can get enlightened and sick, thinking you know everything and you're all right, and then you'll come crashing down.
Yeah, you get triggered by life.
Yeah, you get triggered by life and so on. So so let's say you get it, but you're still not happy. You're intellectually convinced that you're the self. Then we tell you, well, the problem was you have to go back to the drawing boards.
Requalify.
Requalify.
Yeah.
And the Gita is a good model for this. The Gita model is there because Arjuna's suffering, he's a samsari. Krishna teaches him the self and he doesn't get it.
Yes. The first chapter, yeah.
Now Krishna should have been able to tell that he wasn't going to get it and just teach him karma yoga. But that's just a device in the scripture to point out that you need to be qualified for it. But you need to know where you're going if you're going to qualify. So, getting one of the main qualifications being desire for liberation. So the person has to see that I really do want to be free. We covered that in the first lesson, and all the lessons, all the teachings talk about that. There's a desire for freedom is paramount in your mind, that you really do want to be free.
Freedom from suffering.
Freedom from suffering.
Absolutely.
So, and then since when Arjuna doesn't get it, that's the teaching saying, okay, now you got to go back and prepare your mind properly. You've heard the teaching, but you've been unable to apply it and remove your suffering. You still have doubts and questions about yourself. And so then he teaches karma yoga.
Yes.
So, because that's the foundational practice. That's not therapy.
Yeah.
You can say it's therapy, but yeah, we could call it therapy.
It's certainly emotional control.
Yeah, yeah.
Letting go of the results and.
Yeah, and it's a very, it's amazing that the psychologists haven't,
That's true.
the therapists haven't figured this out.
That is very true.
I mean, it's totally amazing.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, because they don't have a goal of moksha, or know what moksha is. They do want to get you free of suffering,
Yeah.
but they don't, they think that they're gonna get rid of some imaginary problem or some psychological problem, and you're gonna be okay when that happens.
Yeah.
But you're not.
No.
Other problems will come, they'll always come. And so it's because they're taking you to be a jiva.
Yes.
So like when you're teaching Vedanta, you're actually teaching the self.
Yeah.
You're not actually teaching the jiva, but you have to pretend that you're teaching a jiva.
Oh.
Because they don't know it, but they're pretending they're jivas, that they're
Yeah.
individuals with problems. So you'd have to tell them, well, the reason you're psychologically dysfunctional is very simple. It's a very simple thing. It's because you're not getting what you want right now.
Yeah. Or you get what you don't want.
Or you get what you don't want.
Exactly.
That's
so true.
Either way.
It's lovely and simple, isn't it?
It's so simple.
Yeah.
So, that obviates the need for all this endless talk about your past.
Yeah, childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma, my mom this, my dad that, all this blaming and all this sort of stuff, the government, church, religion,
Yeah.
who knows?
You get to sort it out in the present moment, you're going to sort it out now.
Yeah, right now, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that's it. It's absolutely essential that they understand that you're not gonna pick through the vomit of your mind looking for a solution there.
Yeah.
You got to accept the fact that you're just not happy now.
Yes.
And why? From you, why? Well, because you're not getting what you want. And you're never gonna get what you want.
Yeah.
Or maybe will, but whether you get what you want or don't get what you don't want, it's out of your hands.
Yeah. And it's always fleeting anyway.
Yeah, it's always fleeting.
Yeah.
We covered that in the first talk,
Yes.
but in the second talk, in the Karma Yoga section, we really deal with it more carefully.
Yes.
Because we explain all the factors that are operating in the field. That the field is so complex.
Yeah.
That there's no way that you can predict what results you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You can more or less think things through and get a general idea of what a result will be, but you never know what the result will be exactly.
Yeah, like aligning yourself with the universe, doing the best you can, and just, who knows.
Yeah, and that involves taking bad, unwanted results in the same state of mind you take wanted results.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why would I do that?
Blessings and lessons.
Huh?
Blessings and lessons.
Blessings and lessons. Yeah, blessings and lessons. That's good. I thought of it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're lessons.
Yeah.
They're set me straight. So there I developed love of Ishwar, or God, the field, which is the field of action in which I'm worshipping. Worshipping means I'm dependent upon and paying attention to.
Yes.
And I'm worshiping with my actions. So God is the creator of the field, and God is the deliverer of the results of the actions. You know the whole.
Yeah, very good.
The whole Karma Yoga thing. And that, there you need to bring in, often I bring in the Vasana, get in details with the Vasanas.
Okay.
Although now with most people, they've read it, they've studied it and so forth and so on, I don't really have to go through that samsara chakra in detail, but it's very, very useful to do that.
It
In
is.
other words, Vasana, Karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how an action creates a Vasana, which creates a desire, which creates an action, which creates a Vasana, which creates a desire, which keeps you going round and around and around. It's very extremely frustrating and repetitive and boring. And it's a loop. It's a virtual loop you can't get out of by action. So there in the Karma Yoga philosophy, you have to change your attitude.
Yes.
So Karma Yoga is the right attitude, and they're changing your attitude, which is, oh, I see, since I don't know what the field is and how to act properly here in my context, in my life, in my family, and society around me, I'm gonna let Ishwar tell me.
He's going to do it anyway.
He's gonna do it anyway.
Exactly.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
let's let Ishwar tell me. And so I'm grateful for whatever happens. And that's gonna neutralize my vasanas.
Yes.
So every action, then your daily life becomes your spiritual practice.
And so you talk about how they should be, we want non-binding vasanas at that point. The difference between the binding and the non-binding.
Yeah, that's right. You know, any vasana that's optional is non-binding, you don't have to worry
Just
about
preferences.
preferences.
Yeah.
The idea is to make a mind, mind's never gonna be free of preferences,
No.
but a preference is something that doesn't disturb you if you don't get it.
Yes.
I would prefer to have a Dos Equis beer, but I'll take a
Bud.
Bud Light. You know,
Yeah.
and my fundamental sense of self and happiness is not in any way disturbed by, you know, by having to accept this option.
That's good.
Or just doing without.
Yeah.
I don't need either one. I don't need a beer. I don't need but I'll just sit here and be happy. Or I'll drink a glass of water.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So Karma Yoga is and that's gonna introvert the mind and make it dispassionate.
Yes.
So
And calm and peaceful.
I'll call that, that's
So
it, yeah,
agitation.
sattvic,
Sattvic.
calm and peaceful and
Yeah.
inward turned.
Yeah.
It's strange that the more the mind's turned inward, the more introverted you are, the more peaceful you become.
Yeah. True.
But the more extroverted you are, the more disturbed you are.
Very true.
So Karma Yoga is converting an extroverted samsaric or rajasic mind into an introverted sattvic mind.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I like bringing in those gunas there, not necessarily explaining them in details, because I know I made a very good, exceptionally good teaching of the gunas that nobody's done before.
And your book is excellent.
In the book,
Yeah. Yoga with Three Energies.
the yoga of the three energies. But here in that Karma Yoga section, you point out what those three energies are and how, just to get, you know, you can just talk about them, because it's not, it's something that is known by everybody. They know it.
Totally.
So
They wake up sleepy and they wake up full of beans and lots on their mind, or they're clear.
they're clear,
I
exactly.
mean, everybody gets that.
Everybody gets that. And
Yeah.
through the day, you go through all these cycles, guna
Yeah.
cycles and so forth and so on. So you can give a rudimentary discussion of the gunas. I wouldn't necessarily discuss the values there, because later on, I put Triguna Vibhava Yoga kind of as a more advanced yoga. A
Yeah.
sophisticated yoga, more sophisticated yoga at the end with the Jnana Yoga, not with the Karma Yoga.
Yeah. It has its own chapters, doesn't it, later in the Bhagavad Gita? There's no-
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. The
Yeah.
10th chapter and 16th, 17th
Yeah.
chapter there, that's all more or less guna talk
Yeah.
and values talk.
Yes.
And so I like to say that. So Karma Yoga means that, you know, every day I go about my work, and at the end of the day, I've exhausted some of those vasanas, and I haven't created new ones.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Try
I
it out.
haven't added to my story. I always point this out, that you can you can start the day with you always start the day with a certain amount of karma.
Yeah.
That's in the pipeline. You call
Yeah.
it your prarabdha.
Probably, yeah.
And you can either add to that, subtract from that, or just have it stay the same. you can get rid of some of it and replace it with something else. So you can either like gain more karma, in which case you're gonna feel more burdened.
Yes.
You can get less karma, in which case you're gonna feel lighter and higher and happier. Or you can just frustrate yourself by getting rid of some things but picking up other things and replacing the karma that you got. So you never feel that you feel a sense of stagnation.
So in this lesson you would talk about the different types of karma, prabdha, nigami, and sanchita.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that connects. So karma yoga is right attitude, but karma yoga is right action.
Yeah.
And you can, and absolutely you can talk about those three types of karma, because at the same time you're monitoring your attitude and taking that attitude, you're also doing actions. And so you can't do anything about your sanchita or your prarabdha, because that's already in the pipeline. The prarabdha is what's manifesting now, so you have no choice about that.
Yeah.
But about the karma that's going to fructify later, you do have a choice.
Yes.
So you'll naturally do sattvic actions to what? To set up a sattvic life.
Yes, and then the punyas and the papas. Do you talk about those? Like
Yeah. But punyas and papas are legitimate in this discussion, because that's your likes and your dislikes.
Yes.
And karma yoga is going to neutralize those likes and dislikes.
Yes.
That's the point. And, so that, you don't get upset when you don't get what you want, and you don't get elated when you do.
That's good.
So, and then of course with karma yoga you talk about, what the basic rituals are, what,
The agnyas.
Worshiping your Ishtadevata, your ancestors, explain that, what that means. The teacher and the teaching, teacher and teaching needs to be, that's a daily practice. And social service, helping other people, and environmental, plants and animals.
Yeah.
Looking after, and the elements of 5 elements, looking after the environment. So
there's a lot of detail in that stage, really.
Well, and that's then you just unfold, for that whole thing. That I was thinking of doing a whole section down in Africa, but you want the guys that are doing that invited us to do this thing in Durban. They want a more sophisticated teaching, so I'm going to have to kind of give them what they want. And I was going to give them the second to the third to the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the analysis of karma and karma yoga and so forth. But they want they're more advanced than that, and they want a more sophisticated thing. So, but we'll have a lot of kind of new people. So I'm going to have to fiddle it to massage them, to keep them on board.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have to make these compromises.
Because that is another big shift when you realise that you're not in charge of the results. It's a big shift.
That's a huge shift.
It is, when you really understand that. You just do the best you can.
Then you just relax, you do the best you can, and relax it, and what happens, and that whole anxiety for the fruits of the action, that's what's producing the emotions.
Yeah.
Now, why psychology, the psychological world? I don't know if they say that or not, because I don't really know anything about it, to tell you the truth. But I never hear that from, there's all these psychologists that come to Vedanta.
Yeah.
And in psychiatrists. And all the helpers, life coaches, they like to show up right.
Also, as you said, it's the God points. And they're in the mind, and then this is out of the mind. Who's in charge of the results?
Yeah, who's in charge of the results?
So it's out of psychiatry in that way. It's
the best, they got the Jungian thing, but Jung doesn't really deal with it properly. He talks about the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Ramesh Balsekar, he sort of had a kind of poor man's karma yoga, which is kind of life's tough, suck it up, stop whining, you're not the doer.
You're not the doer, that's right, yeah.
You're not the doer, So there's some kind of karma yoga knowledge there. A lot of people got good big help out of that.
Yeah.
Or at least temporarily. So now I'm prepared for, now I've got my base practice, my action base camp. My action base camp is karma yoga always. If there's something that's not going right, if I get too far off in the knowledge side or the mystical side or the experience side, I gotta go back to karma yoga and get everything sorted.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can see that.
So, we always, and actually on the knowledge side, we always go back to the idea that reality is non-dual and that I'm already free.
Yeah.
And karma yoga base camp is, I'm having problems because I'm faulty in my karma yoga.
Yeah.
My emotions and mind, I'm not managing properly because karma yoga is mind management. It's anger management, it's anxiety management, and so on and so on and so on. So now I've got my base practice, and it's not, there we point out, here's a good example for that. It's not running off to an ashram and doing karma yoga.
No.
To make some guru rich.
Yeah.
That's not karma yoga. They call it selfless service, but
yeah,
there's no progress being made there.
Yeah.
Spiritually, you're just hypnotizing yourself with the idea that you're getting rid of karma, and when your karma's gone, you're going to get moksha. And you're not going to get moksha when your karma's gone, because karma's never gone as long as you're here.
Absolutely. That's it. It's end of the road.
Huh? And even if you got rid of all your karma, Ishwar would supply you with plenty more.
Yeah.
Huh? So Ishwar is the God that delivers the karma. So there's no option there. So now I've got, so that's lesson number 5. That's a big lesson.
Yes.
And like you say, you think as long as you need to on that one.
Yeah.
And you plug all the holes about doership and Ishwar. There's a lot of subtle teachings in there. Like actually, later on in the Jnana Yoga side, you have to, on the Nididhyasana side, you're gonna get rid of the idea that Ishwar is a doer too. So, but that provisionally is a good, again, it's a provisional idea that we're gonna have to get rid of later on, but it's a useful idea, so we say, God or Ishwar is the doer.
Yeah.
And stop worrying. And that's a huge relief. Like you say, then you relax, you say, okay, I'm gonna trust Ishwar. Ishwar knows best. Papa knows best.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So now I got my base camp. Then what do? After I practice for a while, my mind starts to get more still, but it's not steady. It's still oscillating.
Yeah.
So Upasana Yoga is stilling the mind, is disciplining the mind, keeping the mind focused on the self. So, and there's, and now most people, you can do it both ways, and you can do them both together, which one is, you can experientially do that by breathing and by the Ashtanga Yoga. And this is where we where we totally accept Ashtanga Yoga.
Yes.
We say, it's great.
Yeah.
Do your Ashtanga Yoga. Now, I say the yamas and niyamas for the values thing in the Jnana Yoga.
Yeah.
But as far as sitting in a quiet place, watching your breath, it's contacting the silence, and holding your attention on the reflection of the self, i.e. the silence, right? It is absolutely important. And then you start contemplating on teachings there. You can, if you've already heard the teaching, the first half, I'm the self, and so there you just contemplate on what these things mean, with your mind fixed on the silence. In other words, you create an inner environment where you actually are just alone with yourself.
Yeah.
So in Karma Yoga, you're still operating in the world, meditation or Vipassana yoga, you're totally turned inward.
Yeah.
That's your time alone.
That's the pacifying of the mind.
Yeah, and that's right. And discipline, and always bringing, and as the vasanas keep coming up, you always bring the mind back to I'm the self, and this silence, this peace that I'm feeling is a reflection of my own divine nature, my own whole and complete nature, and so forth and so on. So you're disciplining the mind, you're keeping it on track, not letting it wander. Because the mind has this, Osho had a good analogy for that. He used, he said, because the mind associates. You have one thought, and then that generates another thought.
Oh, I've seen the movie.
And that generates another thought, and then another thought. And you started here, and pretty soon who knows, you're 10,000 miles away doing something, huh?
Down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he described it as meditating on A, let's say the topic is A, and just holding it on A until A goes to the 10th power, and then A goes to the 100th power, and then A goes to the 1000th power, keeping it focused, huh? And it keeps expanding out, and at the mind, steadying and expanding the mind, because you're holding it on one single topic.
That is,
In Vedanta, that's one of the qualifications listed in the qualifications. It's called samadhana, and it means the ability to focus.
Yeah, for long periods of time.
For long periods of time, and naturally it won't. It will be very frustrating at first.
Yeah.
Depending on how effectively you're doing your karma yoga.
Yes.
If you're doing your karma yoga effectively, it won't take long to get to the silence and keep your mind steady. So then all of those practices that help you to concentrate and focus on the mind and still the mind, that's called Upasana yoga.
Okay.
And then then my mind is really prepared properly to listen to the teaching. So the Vedantas could actually be called, doesn't really come in until you're really capable of listening. And this was a point I wanted to make. I was thinking about the session we had this morning.
Yeah.
I've been doing this lately, and more and more and more. I've been doing it for a long time, but I've been extending the periods of discussion about how to listen. Right at the beginning, before I even start the Purusharthas, the first teaching.
To hold the questions.
To learn